Thanks for tuning into the inaugural episode of the Times Made Up podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's also an audio-only version available on my SoundCloud and wherever else you normally find podcasts. If you're listening, I suggest checking out the video version on YouTube. Just search the Paplin. It's a little bit cooler. Our first guest is my friend Charlie, also known as Daydreemer. He's an artist and VJ who's played at festivals and shows all over the country. I talked to him about how he got his start and lots of other interesting topics. Let's get started.
Alright, we should be good.
Okay. Welcome to the Times Made Up podcast. I'm here with my first guest, Daydreemer.
Hey.
Charlie. So to start things off, what are your thoughts on time?
Time. Well, that's it's a big concept, right? I think it sounds like a smell I once saw. It seems to be inherent almost to this universe, yet it also seems to be a product of our consciousness. So I'm not sure if other things experience time, at least in the way we do.
Yes.
But I thought one cool thing that I think about in time is when we sent the Voyager missions into space, into deep space, right, with some messages for the aliens. One thing that we included on there was a universal time code, almost, that anybody in the universe could kind of get a grasp on what we understood as time. And to do that, we used the flipping of an electron. Electrons flip at a constant rate at the atomic level.
Interesting.
And so that's what we use as the kind of galactic or universal time constant almost, which is pretty cool. And I guess that in that sense, it's kind of inherent to the universe. You know, time for us is most likely the same sort of time as it is on other planets.
Right.
Even if they, it can get warped by gravity and stuff as well.
Relativity and
yeah.
stuff. Yes. Okay.
It's super, super deep concept though. Super abstract as well.
Yes, definitely.
But I like that that's the name of this show, especially with quarantine as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it started, because early quarantine when I was doing streaming, I went for about 13 or 14 hours one night.
Nice.
So
and you wake up and you sleep through the day or something.
Yeah.
Who knows what time is anymore? Especially in terms of society, as we think of time. We have got what do you call it, daylight savings for the farmers, right?
It's like, just gonna shift it. It's different now.
And then not everywhere does that either.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of quarantine, I mean, it's a great theme to keep running throughout the throughout the
people
duration.
Were just kind of existing in a state of limbo and not really having a schedule and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to talk about that, the shift of when quarantine started from doing live events to streaming.
Yeah.
So
happened suddenly too.
Yeah. And how quickly people were able to adapt to it, which I thought was really cool.
And how it's adapted over time too. I remember when quarantine first started and everybody was trying to throw together a bunch of live streams every week and
kind of a little oversaturated
pretty
quickly, and then kind of leveled off once people kind of got a routine down.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Right. Especially if you have things on like occasions, like special occasions for special sets.
Make it more special, yeah.
I feel like that will continue in the future too.
Definitely, even when live shows are a thing, I think it's kind of created a whole new medium for sure. So, what I wanted to ask, like, about the start of your whole Daydreemer project. So when did that first originate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So growing up as a kid, I was not particularly interested in art. I was always kind of a more math and science kind of brain. I'm not particularly gifted at drawing or painting or anything like that. But I always enjoyed the creativity of the art. And so I didn't excel in any sorts of those classes or fields when I was a kid until I got to high school, right? And took a class there called DDP, Design and Drawing for Production. And that was kind of a technical drawing class. And that introduced me to sacred geometry. Right? Cool. We used a compass and a ruler and a T-square on a drafting board, kind of like a precursor to architectural drawing, things like that. And I was captivated by sacred geometry. I think it kind of plays off the human urge for pattern recognition,
right,
and finding these relationships, these geometrical relationships that are kind of inherent to the shapes and kind of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And those are also absolute. Talking
right.
about the universal time constant, you can also say that these shapes, the platonic solids, could be considered absolute as well.
Yeah, they always fascinate me too, because it seems like it has this like innate, like extreme significance to it, but it's hard to really explain like why it's so significant, but you can just tell that it is,
Yeah. One other thing that always pops up with sacred geometry is how much ancient civilizations passed those symbols down.
Right. Like they could tell there was something significant about it. Yeah.
Even civilizations we know nothing about, some of the evidence we have from them are their writings on sacred geometry, the symbols they passed down.
Right.
And for some reason, they thought that those were some of the most important things to pass down to future generations.
Right.
and since these symbols are so universal and everybody can get to them in their own way, compass and a piece of paper, you need circles and a straight line, and you can get all the sacred geometrical shapes from that. Being able to encode information and wisdom into those shapes and showing people how to learn about their consciousness through those shapes is super universal, and it kind of transcends language. And that's also why I got super captivated with sacred geometry kind of going forward after that. So yeah, that class kind of kicked it off. After that, I took some CAD courses, which I was definitely much better at than like painting or drawing or anything like that. So that kind of kicked me more into the digital art direction. Then once I got into more festivals, got into college, I started buying some pins originally, originally because of the Ghibli movies, right? So the Ghibli movies were always super enchanting to me. I mean, they're beautiful. They impart wisdom. They tell a story that means something.
Definitely.
Right, and can teach people valuable lessons. So I was always super inspired by their stories. I started collecting some of those pins. Kind of having this American kind of fan base for the more international movies. And after that, I started meeting some cool artists. I thought, why not try my hand at some of these pins? I have some digital art experience. I can make vectors. I can make CAD work. Why not give it a shot?
Nice.
So I made a couple Studio Ghibli pins to start things off. Got kind of in the pin game and pin groups and met a ton of cool people that way. I remember some of our first interactions were over the pin board at your table.
That's true, yeah. That's how we first met, was at Wonder Bar.
Exactly,
We happened to be stationed next to each other.
Yeah. Trading some pins, collecting some art. Those are definitely good memories. And then after pinning and vector work, I got more into the Adobe products, a little bit more into Photoshop, and then big into video editing. That was my thing for a while. Inspired a lot by the Off the Air compilations, watching those all the time, and being inspired by not just what people were creating, but how they were putting those creations together to form something that has a meaning larger than the sum of its parts.
Right. Yeah.
Which is really cool to me, and that's why I love mixing so much. It really gives you the ability to tell more complex stories using the arrangement of different art pieces rather than just making one art piece in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of a similar approach I take, I feel like, with my DJ sets, and then also the way I do visuals and stuff like that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because I source a lot of material that isn't created by myself, but I feel like the way it's arranged
presented
makes it its own thing.
Yeah, it makes it super unique. Yeah, and that kind of pushed me towards VJing a little bit more.
Right.
I didn't have any experience doing live stuff, and I always preferred pre-recorded things because I could always line everything up exactly how I wanted. I could make the flow move and steer people's thoughts.
Like listen to it all ahead of time and like know how you're gonna do it instead of just like reacting live to the DJ.
Yeah, which then you're on like a little delay. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely fun. Yeah. And then I met Dave Schumann, Actualized Visuals, at a D show, actually, at Middle East, And he was playing visuals there, and we got to talking. We both made art, and he was just like, yeah, you should come VJ. Come to a small show, just get some experience, get your feet wet with it, and you'll learn a lot doing it that way. After that, it was a lot of VJing, making more visuals, more video loops.
Nice.
And... I've kind of evolved all those things. still make some vector art, still do a lot of video editing and mixes on YouTube, and even more VJing now.
Yeah. So what were some of the kind of highlights of VJing? Like, what were some of the biggest artists you enjoyed doing it for, or events?
That's a good question. Well, starting off with one of your events, the Random Rap Show. That's always one of my favorites. And his music is just so beautiful, and it's perfect for visuals and allowing people to, dance a little bit, also appreciate art and have more of a chill vibe.
A little more introspective, but still really danceable.
Definitely, yeah. And I remember that show at Wonder Bar. He brought all those incandescent lights that he brings around with him.
That's such a nice effect.
It makes the room so warm too. So those with the visuals there, that was an
live instruments and everything.
Yep. Chatting with him a bunch that night as well. That was one of my favorite Wonder Bar nights ever.
Nice. Yeah, me too, for sure.
Yeah. We have a good picture from that one. The whole gang. Some other highlights I'd say is probably Almost Human show at
nice.
over in Worcester.
Which set did you do that for? I forget.
I did pretty much the whole night.
Oh yeah.
The whole night actually. But yeah, that was wild. I mean, got Caspa back after going to his shows for a while, and the whole night was just amazing. It was a good assortment. I got some VJ loops ahead of time, so I was mixing some of Honeycomb's own visuals, which is cool because he has the whole aesthetic, and it's a little different from the other sets. So it allowed me to present a lot of different sets all in one night to make one full journey, which I really like.
That's great.
And then maybe one more I'd point out is Spoonbill at Quasar down in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah, Spoonbill has always been a favorite of mine, and that was definitely a really good one. We had a cool stage set up there with one projection mapping the front of the stage, and then another one projection mapping from behind through a see-through banner in the back.
I love when they do that. Yeah.
So we had double projectors, so I could have different content going on the front and the back.
Wow.
It's pretty much like doubling the content you can put out.
So how do you even do that, like, technically?
Yeah, so in Resolume, you map different outputs to different layers. So I can have this layer, or everything this layer and under playing on this projector, and then maybe this specific layer playing on the back projector or something.
That's cool.
So yeah, you can do the double, and that's something unique and something you don't see a lot of times. A lot of times people have visual boards as just LEDs, or maybe just one projector mapping out a bunch of intricate things. But having two is I
love
nice
when
treat.
you could add a little more, like, of a twist like that, or when there's like actual mapping of the elements of the stage and stuff like that, like lines going around grid work of the frames and stuff like that.
Yeah, Daydreemer was also there, and he has a couple guys on his team that are experts in mapping out those little slices and making the lasers follow the trails.
Yeah, that's the next thing I want to really get into learning.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Dave is getting sponsored by Lightform.
Oh, awesome.
Which is kind of that an attachment or a standalone projector you can get that will help you map out whatever face or feature you're looking at, right? So it can trace. It has depth mapping, so it kind of shoots a laser and calculates how long it takes that laser to come back, and then it based on that, it calculates how far the object is away. So it can tell which objects are further away and which ones are layered on top of each other, and do a lot of the hard mapping for you.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that's what he used when he was doing like the house mapping streams, right?
Yeah. So he was actually using Mad Mapper for that.
Oh, right.
Mad Mapper is another program. So Mad Mapper is more of a program, and Lightform is more of a hardware device that you can use.
Oh yeah, Lightform. That's what he did when he did the fish tank.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So both are pretty cool, and it's good to see Dave getting into more like specialized projection mapping and presenting something unique.
Yeah, I got to play around with his whole setup for the
oh, nice.
When they had McMahon play just at someone's house.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Getting to use like all the settings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Once it's all set up, it's wicked fun to play. Those house sets, the house mapping sets were a big success last year, I think.
Yeah, probably gonna go back to doing it now that it's warm out, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Or about to be warm out. But
yeah, I like that idea of having like the kind of main event and then a chill after party, like something different for the after party, and then you do that. The time's made up for after a lot of good events. it's way more of a relaxed vibe and
Right,
people
not
chilling
like-
in chat.
Yeah, because then it's not like, oh, this is like a big headliner, which is always
Right.
great to enjoy, but it's like, it's just so much the main focus that's like all you can really focus on, and it's great, but like it's nice being able to just like chill and be in the chat. And I'm trying to incorporate more like having Zoom chat open too with everyone to hang out in alongside it, which is always fun. I did that for the Wonder Bar tribute stream that we did a while ago. Do you remember?
Yeah. Nice. I think I was telling you a while ago that another cool thing that I was really loving is stuff that like Leah was doing, Princess Leia was doing, and for the Burning Man stream, having people being able to emote on stream.
Right, that was really cool.
Mixing that up with the visuals. It's kind of a sweet, double feature there.
Weird, chaotic emoji storm going on.
And having people feel like they're part of the visuals too,
that's
which
always
is nice.
fun. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that after party feel. It feels way more like an actual community or festival or anything where you're hanging out and you're just, shooting the shit. Hanging out, enjoying music. It's good. I think streams have been real good for quarantine.
Definitely.
Kept me sane,
yeah,
at least.
Keeps people connected, which is nice.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, and another question relating to like how you got started was, I was wondering if there's any like specific event, like festival or show that like really like sparked your like passion for it, or is it more of a gradual process?
Oh, that's interesting. VJing in general, or
just
art?
I mean that, and also just like all of it, like being like, oh, this is something I really love now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gotta credit Tipper and team for bringing VJs and visual artists to the forefront, and having their names up there, as big as Tipper, and having it be kind of a dual presentation.
Right. Yeah, he kind of started that, which has definitely been the trend now with like the Rust streams do that a lot, and like a few other ones.
And people in general just have a bigger appreciation. People actually know some of the VJs nowadays.
Right.
Whereas a while ago, it would just be like, I don't know who's VJing, just someone
playing some random loops.
Yeah, exactly. So that was definitely big inspiration. Trying to think of any other specifics. Definitely, I'd say, definitely shout out to Wonder Bar. I especially love their setup, and that's why I, played there so much, and never had a second thought about going there to play, because those TVs that you have surrounding you, you fill the whole room. Instead of having all the attention being just right on the stage on this one screen, it's, wherever you look, you'll see something cool. And
yeah,
the whole room's
like that
a
about
party.
It. Yeah. Like if I were to design a venue, I'd do it where like to try to move the focal point away from just a stage, so that everyone's just kind of like commingling around and not just like all staring in one direction.
Exactly, yeah. Makes things so clustered when you're like that, and people are always fighting for the front.
Yeah.
But if things are everywhere, then it doesn't matter where
like
you are.
Projection mapping all over the ceiling and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's always cool.
I've done a few, not gigs, but just like little shows with my friends at their houses. We'll just lay down a bunch of sleeping bags and pillows on the floor and just project straight up on the ceiling.
Yeah, I've done that at like Airbnbs after shows a bunch. Just bring my little projector and aim it at the ceiling, and everyone's just like chilling on the beds.
I love going to different Airbnbs and projection mapping out whatever kind of weird architecture they have there, columns or like doorways or whatever.
I don't think I've done that, but yeah, that sounds great.
Oh, it's nice.
This episode of the Times Made Up podcast is brought to you by pickles. Pickles are the most versatile food in the world. You can have them cold, or you can have them hot. You can even put them in an air fryer. They're great on toast. You can do literally anything with a pickle. Please, go to your local store and buy some pickles today.
So I've got a good one. It kind of relates a little bit back to my roots and thinking about kind of what inspires you and what keeps you going. A show that I love a lot is Westworld on HBO. That deals a lot with artificial intelligence and how that relates to the human evolution of consciousness. It's a fascinating subject because both those things I think are on the forefront of society nowadays, and going to be a big part of our future.
Definitely. So
one thing that they talk about in Westworld is this idea that the hosts or the machines have cornerstone memories. And these memories that are cornerstones are integral to their personality. It's almost what you build their whole personality out of.
Right.
And whenever they ask you to think about robots in Westworld, they're also asking you to think about humans in a similar way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what about humans, and what kind of memories or experiences do humans have that are kind of these cornerstone, pivotal experiences in their life that trickle down to all future parts of their life?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about it for me, and especially in terms of my art, I think there's a few major things that I've noticed that kind of drive my style and what I like. And those things have originated when I was a small child, based on my interests back then. And that would be collecting and building.
Okay.
I used to be big into like Pokemon cards, Legos.
Same.
Both those things are teach you collecting and building. And I've carried those two with me forever, and you know, kind of integrated them into different parts of my life and continue to return to them. And I asked myself why. I always like to return to these and why they're so important to me and why they make me the person that I am. And I think that we'll start with collecting. Collecting is kind of, to me, it's more, as it evolves throughout my life, it's more of a mind state that I can put myself in. And it's a mind state that kind of asks you to restructure your brain to focus a little bit more on getting rewarded for the journey rather than the destination.
Right.
Because collecting, people who really collect, it's not about getting a bunch of things. It's about the journey of getting those things.
Right.
The interactions you have.
Yeah, it's like you get satisfied by doing all that rather than like being like, oh, I have it all now. Because then at that point, you're just kind of done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good to enjoy what you have. But like,
plenty of people sell their collections afterwards.
Right.
It's not about the collection.
Yeah.
It's about the stories along the way, right? And especially my art, especially with like off-the-air style video edits, and even in my VJing, you'll see it a lot. Bringing in all these different pieces to build something that's bigger than the whole, or bigger than the sum of its parts, I should say. And that's been super important to me throughout my life, and I really think that it's kind of integral to the artistic process, because everybody draws inspiration from everyone else. You know, we wouldn't be half the people we are today if it weren't for all the great, you know, thinkers and scientists, inventors over the years that have given us all these great tools to be able to think more critically in our lives now. So I always carry that with me. I always try to learn more about it, because I think that it's so integral to my person. I almost can't escape it.
Right.
But building as well, I'd say, is the assembly of little parts, right? So I like to collect all these things and then build them up into something bigger. And I think that helps me a lot in my video editing, and being able to create stories that have a more deeper meaning or a more complex structure than I would be able to create in any singular piece.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you think some of your cornerstones are? What are things that you've carried with you throughout your life that really make you the person, impact your personality?
Interesting. I mean, I would say collecting is also a big one. I was super into Pokemon, and then Yu-Gi-Oh after that. Yeah. And then I
mean, even just at Wonder Bar, we trade with each other.
Yeah, collecting pins, collecting art, collecting just all kinds of things. And like you said, it's like just fun way to interact with people that you wouldn't interact with otherwise. And then just like make friends that way, and like all that. Yeah, that's definitely a big one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I do in terms of art is I'll take just like a picture that I took with my phone and then just manipulate it from there.
Yeah.
So like, just, I guess just, which I like consider that and like other things like almost like a form of alchemy, kind of.
Yep.
So like, just like taking a base level thing and like turning it into something newer, with like way more depth to it.
Yeah. I love thinking about alchemy, and I think Carl Jung says this a lot, that it's almost like a magic in terms of it's the rearranging of images, of symbols, of sounds, whatever, into changes in consciousness.
Right. Exactly.
So you're like kind of like deep thoughts within people, and getting people to, you know, communicate something beyond just words.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're creating something out of nothing. You're taking something that's already there and just making it into something else that creates changes in people's thinking patterns.
Right.
That's powerful. think that's some of the most powerful magic we have nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Along with the age of information here,
Mm-hmm.
which is the internet and the vast sharing of that knowledge, or that art, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you were saying about how, like, internet stuff and AI and all that is becoming such a big part. Like, one thing I've been talking about with people a lot lately, almost joking, but also kind of serious,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's important to teach AI sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's because, like, me and other people I know have got, like, automatic, like, one day Facebook bans because we, like, make a comment that they say is, like, bullying, but it's just, like, a sarcastic comment that was innocent.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, you're a bully. And then it's like, well, you just didn't understand what I said.
Yeah, they don't know.
So it's like, if it were to become a thing where, like, AI was actually, like, a much bigger influence in things, and they just, like, take everything at complete face value and, like, don't know, like, what you're actually trying to communicate. This could be a real issue, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Because, like, someone posted a picture of pictures from Mars, from the recent Mars rover, and a random person in the comments, like, I don't know if they were joking or trolling or actually, like, serious, but they were like, this is fake, we didn't send a rover there, this is all CGI. And I was just like, and their profile picture was just a picture of their dog. So I said, you're just a dog, what do you know? And then they said, you're bullying this person, you called them a dog. And then I got banned for a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at their picture, they are a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me think of this one quote. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's something like, don't show me a philosopher who can't laugh at himself, and don't show me a great man who can't bow in front of children. Something like that.
That's cool.
Like, AI needs to be able to think like that as well. Be humble, be self-reflexive, be
right.
I don't know, meta.
Like, just kind of learn what it's like to be a human, and, like, adapt to that, because it's like most times people are communicating, it's not like direct factual like thing. It's like there's some kind of nuance to it usually, and like more of like a poetic sense to it almost than just like direct information giving,
Yeah. And nothing's absolute like that. You gotta stay humble. Gotta laugh at yourself, that's for sure.
Would you like to support the podcast and the Paplin streams? Well, there's several ways you can do that. One of the best ways is to buy some of my art at thepaplin.org. You can also subscribe to my Twitch channel, The Paplin Presents, or you could even send a direct donation through Venmo, which is @thepaplin. I'll also be starting a Patreon where you'll be able to find bonus content, exclusive art, and downloadable mixes. Also, just sharing the podcast and posts about streams is a huge help. Thanks so much. So yeah, Wonder Bar was kind of where like my whole thing started, because I was doing the vending there. Paplin's Provisions, and then started doing my own shows, and then I just want to talk about in general, like, had the vibe there, how great it was, and how much of a community it was, more than just like an event space,
Yeah, super good for community. I mean, countless people I met there, people that lived, a few blocks away from me.
Yeah,
which
like
is nice.
Pretty much most of my good friends now I've got to know there, which is cool.
Same. And it gives you I especially like Wonder Bar because I could always talk to people there.
Right.
I go to Undervenues, I can't talk. You have to go outside and smoke to talk to talk to someone. But
exactly.
Wonder Bar was just the whole community space. You had little art stations. You had visuals going everywhere. You had the stage, which was in the middle. Which was nice.
Yeah.
Much better setup.
And then we had the Alston Art Share there, which was cool.
Yep.
Which was a thing in the past, which before I started going there.
Oh, really?
Apparently, other people did it, and then we kind of readopted the name.
Nice.
But yeah, so that the first time I did that, I had like you and Princess Leia and Veggie Tempura.
Yep, for VJs.
So I did it where like the bill was like all the VJs.
Yeah.
And then down at the bottom, it's like, oh yeah, there'll also be music by these people.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
locals.
more the focus on the art, which
Definitely.
was really cool.
And not just VJs, you had some cool vendors there as well.
Some live painters and vendors.
Yeah.
Ian McNeil was there for one of them.
Yep. I remember I was mixing up one of his pieces in the visuals too, right?
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it was a great place for all the mingling of that and people to collaborate together and stuff.
Definitely, yeah. And the people who owned Wonder Bar were super cool. The bartenders there were super cool.
Yeah.
I never felt uncomfortable there, really.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate that it closed.
Yeah.
Just because of, I mean, I think they were thinking of selling it anyway, but then the pandemic definitely...
nail in the coffin.
Yeah. Along with a lot of other places, but
definitely.
Hopefully once shows start again, we'll find another similar place.
Great Scott, I think, closed too, right across the street.
Yeah, I've heard.
We need an Alston spot.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know how true it is. I heard they might be like relocating to where that pizza place was down the street. That was like a really big place. Who knows if that's real or not? But like, it'd be cool if that happened to
that would be sweet.
Have like a base night there. Would be really cool. I think that was Maria's idea actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, yeah, we got a lot of local people around here who make art and music. That's what I found out from Wonder Bar.
Need a place to all share it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, I'll probably end up doing more of like a DIY space type of thing rather than like full venues with bars and stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like the vibe's just a lot different.
Definitely.
For sure. Like the Reliquarium type places, which is a really cool place.
That's wicked cool.
Doesn't really do things anymore either. Like even before the pandemic started, I feel like they were kind of slowing down a bit.
They were, but Resonate was getting them back into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Had like a show a season there, which is nice. And got Electric Haze as well out in Worcester.
Yeah.
They're doing some cool stuff, and that's also a nice space where you can just kind of sit down, enjoy some hookah, enjoy some drinks. You know, music's not like the only thing happening. You're not standing there just looking at the stage. And they also have vendors come there and local people. I like that spot.
Yeah, that's one of the only places I've done a show other than Wonder Bar, actually. I went out to do one there with Spencer Spence, and Flotiglio.
Nice.
And
he's great.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Did a lot of cool collabs at Equinox as well with some of those guys.
Oh yeah.
And Flotiglio loves Equinox because he's always about like those little pop-up shows.
Yeah,
he's got his controllers pop
show
up
randomly and start playing and draw a crowd. And
yeah,
just like being silly.
Yeah, start vibing. I love that. I mean, that's the whole spirit of it. You're just walking by, you hear something you like, and now you're part of it.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I love so much about festivals. It's not just the stages, it's like all the other random stuff going on.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what you do so well with Paplin, I think, is you try to incorporate everything else as well. You know,
right.
So many promoters are just like, what sells? The music, that's what we're getting.
Right, yeah.
You need everything else, though, too, to really build a community, I think.
Right, yeah, try to make a whole environment. Yeah, I have like lots of other ideas going forward for things. Like if I have like more space to work with, I want to have like little interactive like setups, like things with like a motion capture camera or something. People can just like mess around with
Connect.
it. And it's like something like a connector or any other thing like that. And
a couple of the VJs at Quasar had one of those.
Oh, nice.
You have a whole forest, plenty of space, and there's just a projector set up. People walk in front of it, and then they can see their hands moving with particle effects and stuff. Yeah. Wicked cool.
Or just like something where like have like a camera just randomly in the crowd that people can go interact with, and then they'll show up in like a screen somewhere on the visuals or something like
nice.
that. Just like mess around with that. That would be a cool idea. It's like little stuff like that to get the audience a little more involved with what's going on.
Yeah. And then you can tweak those things every time, so it's always a little different, you know.
And just also like having like performers go interact with people. Like I have lots of ideas for stuff like that. Like, just like going in the crowd and just like kind of starting little fun events.
Bring a camera with you too. That's sweet.
Yeah, definitely trying to go into a more theatrical direction with the stuff I'm doing, like with the Cthulhu show I did last year.
Yep.
Where like we had like a bunch of people in like cloaks, like black cloaks, doing
Nice.
weird ritual type
Summoning
stuff.
ritual.
And, had like a fake human sacrifice of our
Nice.
friend Rachel.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing that again. Basically that same vibe for one of my streams coming up, Halloweaster.
Oh, nice.
Because it's Easter is just about the halfway point between Halloween's, which is like my favorite holiday. So we were like, well, I want to do another Halloween event, but I don't want to wait a whole nother year. So it's just going to be like spooky version of Easter.
Oh, that's great. It'll be a slightly different vibe as well.
So that would be cool.
Nice.
And then,
what do you think about the future of Northeast outdoor festivals?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Do you
feel
think
like
they come back with the same force?
I've been wondering about that because I feel like a lot of the main like staples are like gone now, like Wildwoods, Great North.
That whole venue's got Page Farm. I think is
Page
not,
Farm, I
not
think
doing
is
anything.
done. I mean, even like more surrounding areas like things like Farm Fest, like all that is kind of like
Great
defunct
North,
now.
no more. Yeah, find it hard to keep festivals around here, keep them going.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard unless it's like a really big, like corporately funded one. And
Disco and Elements.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's what we got here.
I mean, even Elements isn't like, it's still fairly grassroots, I feel like, but it's still definitely on the like mid-range size, I'd say. But yeah, I feel like it's hard to do smaller ones because there's just like so much overhead and not as much. It's hard. The main issue they have is like being able to pay everyone. Seems like, but yeah, I mean, I definitely want to try to throw a festival one day. Probably start just with like a small word of mouth, not even ticketed thing, like 100 or a couple hundred people maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll see where that goes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on like warehouse parties? Speaking of word of mouth kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I never like got to experience that many of them. I feel like a lot of my friends did when they were like younger, but I didn't really get into going to events like that until I was around 20.
Right, I feel like it's phased out of the culture a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it still exists in places. I think it's probably more popular in like Europe and stuff, probably.
Definitely.
But yeah, I feel like it's definitely seems really fun, but also probably kind of sketchy sometimes for sure, because there's not really like as much oversight for safety and like precautions, and like you never know if it's gonna get like shut down or anything. But
sometimes that's the thrill of it, though.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. You like never really know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But
it's out somewhere at 3 a.m.
But yeah, I feel like I kind of missed out on all that.
Yeah.
Like there's like stuff that's kind of like that, but that are still like ticketed events. Like Citadel was a really good one, where it's just like a kind of warehouse art space.
Yeah,
but
they keep that vibe.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm in the same boat. I haven't been able to experience too much of that, and it seems like I'm almost on the tail end of it coming out.
Right.
But yeah, I really like it, and I think the culture coming out of that's pretty cool.
For sure.
People, I don't know, being a little bit more responsible. Sometimes in these corporate venues, people get a little too silly and crazy and cause problems. But there, it almost cultivates more of a community of caring and responsibility.
Right, because it's like you don't have like the authority of the venue there, so you kind of have to take responsibility for it yourself.
Yeah.
And there's no
things mess up, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. There's not like security there to take care of things. You have to kind of watch out for each other on your own.
Yeah,
which is kind of like how it should be anyway. Usually. Yeah,
it teaches you a lot, but also could strengthen the community in some ways. I mean, yeah, I get kind of tired of some House of Blues shows sometimes.
House of Rules.
Yep, House of Rules.
Yeah, I usually try to not go there unless it's like an artist I really, really want to see.
Yep.
And even then, sometimes I'm like, I don't really feel like it's worth it, to be honest.
Actually, one of my favorite memories from there was a Spangle show at House of Blues on a Sunday night. It was a huge thunderstorm, and less than half the place. It was the most empty I've ever seen House of Blues.
Wow.
And you had plenty of room to dance, 6 feet around you. It could have been a socially distanced one if you wanted to.
Yeah, I've definitely been to some good shows there. I feel like for venues like that, and like Royale and other places like that, if it's like on a
weeknight, and it's more of like a concert vibes than just like a club night vibes. It's like much better. Like I saw Beats Antique at Royale on a Thursday, and it was great. Like everyone was just there to see Beats Antique. It wasn't people just like, oh, I'm gonna go out for my Saturday night, and it happens to be at the show.
I don't care who's playing. I'm going here to drink.
Like I've just had some very not ideal encounters with like random drunk dudes at places like that.
Absolutely. Oh, one good thing, Royale is one place where I usually try to avoid because of the club atmosphere there. But I remember one night they had Opio play there. And
I think I might have been.
It was a 7 p.m. show.
Yeah,
Opio went on at like 7 p.m. or something, and the club night was after the concert.
Right.
Concert first, then you can club.
Right.
And that really brought the vibes down to manageable level.
Totally.
Rather than the craziness that sometimes ensues there.
Yeah, like I remember I was there once and this guy was just like kept just aggressively trying to dance with every girl around us and like it got to the point where me and like a few other people were like, dude, like get out of here, like no one wants you around us. And then he was just getting all aggro about it and just like kept leaving and coming back and then spilling his drinks all over us.
And then the bouncers there are used to dealing with that, so that's how they treat everybody. It's like they're one of those people.
I always wonder like how venue staff, like security and bartenders, like if they, what they prefer. Do they like the more like standard club night things? Because I feel like they make more money as bartenders for sure, but then I feel like they probably have more fun when it's just like a bunch of silly like hippie type people there.
I mean, they could be enjoying that show.
Exactly. And then it's like I feel like security doesn't have to deal with as much aggressiveness. Kind of
I'll actually sometimes, if it's a smaller show or if it's not packed out yet, I'll just go up and talk to the bartenders. Actually have a conversation with them.
It's not just
treat them like a human.
Waiting in a line to get a drink and immediately leaving.
Yelling at them.
Yeah, it's always preferable. Yeah, I remember like at the Worcester Palladium, whenever I've only ever actually went there for the 2 Resonate events that were there. I've never
they used to not sell that many tickets for that venue. They overpacked
because it's like they just have the one bar and that's the only place you can even get water. So you have to stand in line behind like 7 people trying to get drinks just to get some water. And then eventually you're just like, oh, whatever, I guess I'm just not going to have water because you want to just go back to the music. So
drink
it's
from
like,
the sink in the bathroom.
Exactly. And then other places they'll just be like, to prevent that, to make you have to buy water, they have the sinks only be hot. I've noticed sometimes.
That is savage.
That's just irresponsible, honestly.
That's a little ridiculous.
Like, I don't know if that's the intent, but that seems like it.
It does seem like it. I try to boycott some place that charge anywhere above like $3 for a bottle of water or something.
I mean, luckily, I feel like most places around here just have like a pitcher or like a dispenser. You can just go get water. Like Middle East and places like that have that.
If I see that there, I'll get some water, but then I'll also buy a drink because that's cool.
Right.
You're doing something for me.
Yeah, but when I first started going to shows in New York when I went to college there, and every venue it's like you had to buy water, and it was usually like $5 or more, like Webster Hall and places like that. That's where I started going to shows, was there, so it was like a interesting introduction to it.
Yeah. I've only been there a couple of times to the basement part. I'll walk around the upstairs and say, no, I'm going to the basement.
They had some pretty good acts upstairs sometimes, like in the past. Well, back then I was like, I probably wouldn't have been as into them now, but at the time I was, back in like 2012 to 2014. So I was like very into like the more crazy dubstep type stuff.
Dubstep was big.
I mean, I still like dubstep, but like not as much that brand as much anymore. And then I was like, trap was really big at the time. I was like very into that, like RL Grime and stuff. And one of my second show I ever actually went to, the first one that I like really enjoyed a lot was Zed's Dead on December 23rd, 2012. So it was like an end of the world party. So they were like,
wicked.
At midnight we're all gonna die, so have fun. Like kind of as a joke. It was great. Everyone was like going so over the top, and I was like so new to shows. I was like, this is just what it's always like.
Wow.
Like, people were like running around topless and stuff like that. But
YOLO. Nice.
So that was a good one. And then I moved back to Boston and then rediscovered the whole scene here, which was, I kind of feel like it's definitely much more of like a community, because it's like it's not as big of a city. So when you find like the niche music you're into, you always see the same people. Mm-hmm. Which also has developed in New York too with like Dub Day and stuff like that. True. Definitely created a very community environment too.
But I heard Dice Man moved out to Colorado.
I think he might be coming back.
Oh yeah, cool.
Or maybe he's starting Dub Day there. But I remember him posting saying like, "Oh, Dub Day will be returning" or something like that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Mm-hmm. That makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good one.
I remember one show I went to at Webster. It was a Yeti show. Yeti was playing in the basement there, but it was also over daylight savings.
Oh, so you get an extra hour?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, no, we actually lost an extra hour.
Oh, you lost an hour.
So I think, Yeti was supposed to come on at 2 and then got pushed back a little bit, and plus daylight savings, it ended up being like 4:30 in the morning. He comes on. It was a wicked late night, and then I walk out of Webster, and it's like daylight. And
yeah, that is the cool thing about New York is that you can go past 2 a.m., which is always fun. And then
and things are still going on.
Yeah,
you can walk outside, and people are bustling.
Find some kind of after party even after that till like midday sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I'm sure that happens here too, but it's like not as prominent at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever make it out to the new venue in Boston, the Big Night Live?
I hadn't actually. I had tickets to go to
Jade Cicada.
G Jones and Jade Cicada, and those were like 2 of the first ones to be lost to quarantine. So I never got to experience it.
I wanted to play at that Jade Cicada one.
Yeah, that was gonna be such a good show.
Insane show, yeah.
One of the best shows I've ever been to was the Jade Cicada with McMahon and 5 a.m.
The PlayStation one?
Blanking on the last person. But PlayStation. Well, it's now a Best Buy theater.
Best Buy?
But it's closed. It's closed now. Or no, it was Best Buy, then it became PlayStation. But like that was one of the ones I used to always go to back when I lived there. And that was like their last big electronic show. Wow. That's like what closed it all off, which was cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So being there for that, because it's like, it was just like such a good vibe of like everyone like so tuned into it and loving it, and like so many people I knew there from all different states. It was so great. Yeah. Just like every time you walk around, you're just like, oh, hello, I know you. Oh, I haven't seen you in years. Hello. Nice. It's great. I remember I walked into the bathroom and ran into Soli. You know him? And he's just like, he was coming out and I was coming in, and then we just like stood there for like 20 minutes just talking in the doorway in the bathroom about random stuff. It's like, oh wait, there's a show going on. We should go back to it. Get back.
Nice. Those are priceless, those little interactions. I like that theater actually too, though. It's kind of like underground.
Yeah, it's like beneath like a parking garage or something like that.
And in Times Square.
Yeah, it's always crazy like leaving the show and then you're just like in Times Square and you're just like, oh,
bright billboards blasting your face. I remember we saw Tipper there, and we had a Airbnb close to the venue in Times Square pretty much, and all the apartments there are this tiny. And we packed a bunch of people into one bedroom.
Wow.
One bed, every inch of the floor covered.
The one back like several years ago, right? Yeah, I was at that show.
That was a good one.
I don't think we had met yet. But we were both there. That's a crazy thing too, when you like meet people and then reminisce on shows and festivals, and you're like, oh, we were at all these same events but didn't know each other yet. Could have been standing right next to each other and not known it.
Yeah, I've gone back and seen pictures of my friends and be like, oh wait, I'm in that picture. I didn't even know you.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
I love that.
Yeah, good times. It's disappointing that a lot of those venues are going to be lost now. But I'm hoping that we're going to get some new ones popping up.
Yeah, I think it should be good. I mean, I feel like there's definitely a bright future for it, especially with like all the new like technology and stuff to just make the whole experience much more immersive and interesting, and just like I'm sure there'll be a mix of really good ones and not as good ones, but hopefully try to bolster up the good ones.
Yeah.
So outside of the whole art and festival scene and stuff like that, what are like some of your other main interests or passions?
That's a good question. So I love collecting and art. Definitely two of my main ones, but those go hand in hand kind of with the festival kind of scene. Big into video games, especially during quarantine. I love immersing myself into fantastical worlds or getting into some other dimension that lets me not escape reality, but enhance my own experience here.
Right.
I always feel like we're on this planet to enjoy life and become fulfilled, and whatever you can find that helps you do that is what you should pursue. But also, video games, I mean, build community.
Definitely.
I mean, play video games with my partner, play video games with my friends, constantly talking. I love the competitiveness. I love strategy. And I love philosophy too. It's another big thing I've been into. Podcast like this one. Or others. I mean, podcasting is another thing that's kind of gained a lot of traction during quarantine, I feel. I mean, it was already coming up before that, but
I've always been super into podcasts. I used to just like on my commute to work always listen to them. Kind of fell off for a while and mostly listened to just music because I was like trying to find new music for my sets and stuff like that. So that was kind of my main focus. But recently in the past year, I've like really dove into podcasts again. Like Duncan Trussell is definitely one of my biggest influences in terms of like direction I want to go with this podcast and stuff.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to see the Midnight Gospel reaching such a large audience.
Yeah,
after
really
I've always felt his
Yeah.
podcast was a little narrow.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing that he's getting his whole message out there.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like that's kind of the direction I want to go with this. Because he started out just kind of interviewing comedians.
Yeah.
And then branched out into having all kinds of more philosophical, spiritual discussions. And then I kind of want to go the same route with this, having on artists and producers, but then branching out past that to like more broad topics, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. I'd say one other thing that I love kind of is goes hand in hand with video games a little bit is medieval / Renaissance culture and role-playing fantasy, everything like that. Obviously the Renaissance Fair is the big one everybody knows, but that one's
I've still never gone to one. I really wanted to check it out. I probably would have this summer, but then they weren't happening. Yeah.
So the Renaissance Fair is like quite commercialized, I would say, in terms of like LARPing and role playing and immersing yourself into that kind of environment. But there's a group called the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism, which is a group based in the U.S. and they have events all over. They have a Northeast chapter and they have these like they get together and have feasts where there's medieval dancing, medieval feasts cooked by people who know all these old recipes.
That's cool.
Bring out the old cookbook that's dusted off and make all these cool things. I mean, you'll have like flavors, rustic flavors you haven't had before.
Wow.
New dances, music like with the hurdy-gurdy, good old instrument that gets forgotten about a lot. And just really cool people, really cool environment, role playing. I love that aspect, and I love just it could be silly if you want, it could be serious if you want, it could be historical if you want. It's what you make it.
Right.
And that's what attracts me to it, and I love seeing how other people make it their own.
Right.
Some people like to be, dress up as an old merchant and sell like leather wares on the side of the
dive fully into that role.
Yeah. And some people, know how to play the hurdy-gurdy and will get up there and play all day. Some people teach dance, sewing, play old board games. Been into chess recently. There's a lot of chess there, but also been playing online a lot, watching some tournaments. It's kept me sane.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah, well, I used to be super into video games. Like when I was younger, I kind of fell off of that. I just like if I'm gonna play a game, I like playing more like party games, like Mario Party, stuff like that, just with friends, not like being as immersed in a world, mostly just because I mean I do like it, but I feel like I just like once I dive into a game like that, I'm just like that's all I want to do. And I want to like focus on other things more than that, I feel like. And then I just like even though it's enjoyable, I just eventually feel like I'm kind of not wasting my time because it's like enjoyable, but like still it could be more productive,
Definitely, yeah.
But one game I have been playing is Gloomhaven, which is really cool. You know about that one?
I don't know.
It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, like an immersive role-playing type thing, but it's like you have an actual board and pieces and stuff. So each time you go to a different dungeon, you like have numbered boards you lay down and like have enemies on them and navigate the board and stuff. But then they just made an online version that I've been playing online with people, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There's a cool app that I found out about it the other day. I think I posted about it. It's called AI Dungeon, and it's a role-playing game that you play on your phone with just text commands, right?
Okay.
So you'll text something in that you want to do within the universe, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have an AI script that will generate story based on what you typed. So you'll type something in like, oh, I'm walking down the path. And then the AI will type something back saying like, oh, you walk along the path and you stumble upon whatever,
That's
chest
cool.
or a new tree or something. And then you type something and the story evolves, like a back and forth between you and this trained AI program that generates new random things. You know, this AI program is pretty much trained on a ton of old like text and Dungeons and Dragons manuals or something.
That's cool.
And it just spits back this adventure, and you just have this adventure almost with yourself, but kind of with the collective lore that this machine learns. That's wicked
really
cool.
Interesting, yeah.
If you're bored by yourself, I'd recommend that one.
Okay.
There's another one, actually, if you like the party games, Jackbox.
I've played that.
You played Jackbox,
There's one specific one in that I really liked.
Which one?
Where you, I forget what it's called, but it's where you like, there's just like a prompt and you have to give your answer to it, then people vote on the best answer.
Yep.
That one's really fun.
That one's wicked good. I love when there's one where you like have to draw a t-shirt design and vote on it, or another one where someone draws something and then someone else has to add on to it, and then people continuously add on until it becomes something wild and silly and crazy.
Yeah, that's always just like a fun party thing to do with your friends.
And that game especially, I feel, breeds like inside jokes and like little things, like you can bring up things with your friends that you know, and hilarious. So that's a good one, especially if you play with people you know.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, like over quarantine, I've mostly just been diving into work, like art type stuff. And other than that, like that's just kind of I've been learning to spin fire, which has been cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
With staffs?
I have a staff that my friend gifted to me for my birthday, which is really nice, and I'm trying to learn double staffs too and dragon staff.
Sick.
But that's been a really cool thing, and also a good way to meet people and build community too as well.
Definitely.
Kind of goes hand in hand with the whole festival culture.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Some of the first people I met in Boston was through flowing. I went to BU here in Boston, and there's not too much, hippie, heady culture there, I'll say. They're pretty serious, business oriented, but there was a couple people there who had like a little flow get together on weekends or whatever at the rec center. And met some really cool people that way. Went to shows together, shared art. It's a great way to meet people.
Yeah. Like, I know, like looking back, like that, and obviously like shows too, but that is how a lot of my friends met each other, and then how I met them through other friends.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Keeps us all connected.
For sure. So what was the other thing that you said you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about, something that I admire about you is your silliness and your authenticity in how you express yourself.
Right.
Which is inspiring to me because, in today's world, there's too much cookie cutter people and people not really thinking for themselves or expressing who they truly are. And I feel like they're not really being true to themselves that way.
Right.
But I also feel like there's this balance where you want to be authentic and you want to be silly, whatever you want to call it. You want to be yourself, but you also want to fit in with society.
Right.
Right. And you want to have an easy time being accepted and, meeting other people and things like that. So there's this hard balance that you always have to strike. I mean, I'm sure you have seen some performance artists that don't care at all about being accepted in society, and they're just unapologetically themselves.
Yeah, like Matthew Silver.
Yes.
He definitely comes to mind.
He comes to mind.
Like a lot of people see him and they think like, oh, this is like an insane homeless person that's just like going crazy on the streets of New York. But he's like actually like super intelligent and has like a message he's trying to convey. Yeah.
Yeah, super good worldview. I mean, yeah, you think he's cooped out, but he knows more than a lot of people. He thinks about things too.
Right. But then does it in a very absurd way to just like grab your attention and make you think about it rather than just like if he was just standing there like in a suit preaching about like love, then people would just be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But like because he's like wearing a Speedo and like
has
all
hair.
kinds of crazy props and like making fart noises, people like pay attention and look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then he also gets a little ostracized for things like that, right?
Yeah.
But being a performance artist, obviously that's a good thing, getting you know, getting some airtime for doing something and actually being able to you know, express yourself and tell people what you wanna say. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I always have to constantly juggle in my own head. How much I just want to live authentically and how much I want to be accepted, get along with other people.
Right.
And either path you take, you're gonna you know, bring new friends into your life and push out old ones.
Definitely.
So it's a hard balance, but I think you do it pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're definitely lucky, like living in the times we are now because with like the internet and stuff, you can always find people that are like-minded to you and like form a community that way, and then eventually even meet up with people in real life through that. And then also having things like shows to go to, obviously, to meet people that are like you. And then like I feel like in the past, like especially if you're like in a small town, then there's just like if you're like kind of quirky and then you're just gonna not have anyone else around like you and just like feel ostracized your whole life. And then
or you can go online and meet the same people.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but there's an interesting aspect to that, I think, is that when the age of information first came about with the internet and everything, and everybody's able to share all this information, you would think people would become way more open-minded and way more intelligent and knowledgeable about all these things. But what I see happening a lot, especially recently, past 5 or 10 years, is a lot of these echo chambers forming online where people go and they seek out people who are like-minded, and that makes sense.
Like confirmation bias.
Exactly. But then all these people get together and then they have confirmation bias and then they're closing their minds instead of opening them. You give people so much more information and ability to communicate, and they choose to close their minds instead of open.
Right.
It's a difficult problem.
Yeah, because you don't want to just like, if you confront someone and be like, you're wrong, they're just going to get defensive.
Yep.
So that's why like I used to get into tons of unnecessary arguments in Facebook comments with like people that you're not going to convince of anything.
Right.
So it's like, as soon as you start like challenging what they think, they're just going to get angry.
Right. And if you challenge it, they'll screenshot it, post it in a group of everybody who thinks like them.
Look at this idiot.
Confirmation right there.
Yeah. So I've kind of learned to just kind of ignore it at this point, especially now that you can get banned for they're like way stricter now with like offhanded comments that they consider not good.
Yeah. But, it's interesting.
Which seems to mostly happen to people that are defending something better, and then the people that are actually being outright hateful don't seem to get in trouble as much for some reason.
I don't quite get their system. I haven't experienced that myself, but I mean, I've seen people getting banned for the silliest things nowadays. I don't know where that's headed, but I do see the opposite happening though too. Some people form communities online where they try and be as open-minded as possible, and they're using all this new information and speed at which we can spread this information to become a lot more open-minded. So it's almost like the ends of the spectrum are widening now.
Right.
Some people are going each. We're no longer meeting in the middle, and hopefully those two people can coexist in the same world in the future.
Right.
But we gotta find some way to get there.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think like art and entertainment things is a great way to bridge the gap, because people like have all these differences like ideologically or politically, but then they like the same show or like the same music, then they could be like, oh, I guess we could be friends over this. And then just like able to open up a dialogue about other subjects through that.
Absolutely. That's interesting. What do you think about artists, maybe specifically musical artists, being more political in their sets or presentation?
I think it's overall good. I think a lot of people, there's a trend of people saying like, oh, just stick to the music.
Yeah.
But like music has always inherently been pretty political.
Yep.
So it's like kind of a silly argument to make. Like one of the biggest things, like people like the dude from Rage Against the Machine is posting like political stuff, and they're like, dude, just stick to the music. And it's like,
have you listened to my
that's
music?
the whole point of the music. Like,
yeah.
So it's
That's
like,
wild.
yeah, it's just kind of silly, but it's like, I think really important for starting dialogue about things, for sure. Even if people disagree with it, it's still like making them think about it.
Yeah. That's the most important thing. Make people think. Independent thought. So yeah, I have one more question, and this one comes from Aubrey Marcus, another good podcaster that I've listened to a lot, and I think he imparts some good wisdom and tries to push good information. And one of his big questions is, why should we follow the path of grace and kindness if we still end up suffering? Why should we be kind in a world that is cold and indifferent? And that's questioning why we should be moral people, or why we should express kindness to others and not be selfish.
Right.
And I think a lot of people understand that inherently. Oh yeah, it's a good thing to do that. But how do you tell someone else that? How do you convince somebody else of that?
Right. Because, yeah, I think it's hard to convince someone else of that, because like if they are in the mindset of like, oh, it's every man for himself, and then they're just like, it's just not sustainable as like a society, because like the whole way we've got to the point we are now is by like working together.
Exactly.
So like if everyone was just like fending for themselves, it'd just be a bunch of little like isolated compounds spread throughout the forest or something.
Right. Every man for himself? Okay, then you can't use electricity. Someone else made that.
Exactly.
You can't use roads. Somebody else made that.
Yeah, so it's like you got to find like a balance again, obviously. And then like, I mean, I know that like I feel like some people get into the trap of being like, oh, like what's the point of anything, kind of, and then like, oh, and then they just like almost become like get into like a nihilistic despair and being like, oh, there's no point in like anything. But then like I remember like a specific moment when I was younger, like probably around like 16, 17, just kind of like first being introduced to all these thoughts of like existentialism and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of like starting to fall into that kind of despair of it, and it was like, oh, like what's the point of any of this? And then I remember a specific moment, I was driving my mom's car to go somewhere, and I was just like stopped at a stop sign, and then just thinking about all that stuff, just not going, because I was just like lost in thought, just sitting at the stop sign. And then I just came to this like moment of realization of like, basically just like you give meaning to it from however you want to, and like whatever meaning you make of it. And then I just kind of had this moment of like, oh, okay. And then I just kept driving, and then like hasn't really bothered me much since then.
Nice. Nice. It's so hard to explain those kind of moments where you just something clicks at that time, and it all makes sense. But I feel that I've definitely had those kind of moments before as well, and I think they're important. Very important. Yeah.
So like, I guess the only way to help other people realize ways to find meaning in things and being kind to others instead of just being interested in your own well-being is just to like live by example, I guess. And then just like, if you are creating any kind of art or stuff like that, to kind of impart that message in it to some degree, and like help people like notice it and hopefully start to realize it, kind of thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
One way that I like to cope with it is through appreciation, which is something I always try, and appreciation for me goes hand in hand with mindfulness.
Right.
You should always be appreciative of what you have, because we have so much nowadays.
Right.
We're able to enjoy so much in
forget.
this world. Absolutely,
Like,
we forget.
Like if you have like a few setbacks or inconveniences or unfortunate episodes in your life, then you just dwell on that instead of all the hundreds of good things going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the appreciation from that really just it makes me able to, especially when I appreciate things that dead people have done that have directly improved my life.
Right.
I just get so inspired, and I think, wow, like they've helped me so much live this amazing life where I get to enjoy everything, play video games, watch TV, enjoy my life, go to shows, hang with my friends.
Framework for it to be possible.
Exactly. I mean, I almost owe it to them, to the future people,
There's this quote, I forget how it exactly went, but it's basically saying about how like a guy basically who plants a tree that he'll never get to enjoy type of thing. I forget how it goes exactly.
Yeah,
but that's
has at least started to
resonated
understand
with
the
me.
meaning of
life.
life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. But that's what it is. It's kind of this continuation. I mean, we're as much ourselves as we are the people who came before us, since those people have pretty much crafted who we are. Mm-hmm. I mean, so much of me and my personality is based upon all these things that other people have made.
Right, right.
And I've just experienced and got to profit off of, which is great. So yeah, appreciation for me always brings me back to being graceful and kind and trying to improve the lives of others.
Right.
Because the big question that always flip-flops in my mind is, how much time should I spend in my life enjoying myself? And how much time of my life should I spend trying to make the world a better place or make it better for other people to enjoy? Because I owe that at least somewhat to other people. I want to make the world a better place, better than I left it. But is the point of life just to come here and enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't spend all your time trying to make the world a better place because you're there to enjoy it as well. Right. But then you also shouldn't be selfish too and only enjoy it. Right. So you just have to find the balance again, like with everything. Right. Yeah. Which is always, it's like been a huge part of my whole mentality the past few years, is just like finding balance in things, like not going too hard to any extreme. Yeah. Like anything you do, you know. Yeah, I'm big that way too. I love making small steps, similar to collecting. I like having just those small increments of change, and over time you just build a vast collection. You build up your skills, build up your life. Definitely. Well, yeah, I think that's probably a good place to stop. This has been a great first episode, I think. Absolutely. Definitely have you on again in the future. For sure. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. Yeah. Tell them about where they can find you online, things you have available. Do you have any streams coming up or anything like that? Yeah, so I do have a couple of streams coming up. I have a stream coming up in a couple weeks, March 20th, I believe. It's going to be with the Down Tempo Israel guys. So getting a little international stream. Nice. And playing with some of them. Yeah, it's going to be nice to have a couple artists, you know, not just DJs and VJs, but, you know, some painters, some clothing people. So cool. Yeah, it'll be good to experience that community. You can also find me on Instagram at Daydreemer Visions. Dreamer spelled with 2 E's. And Facebook, Daydreemer Visions as well. But I also release a ton of content on my YouTube page, where I have a bunch of mixes up there and just many hours worth of content I've spent hundreds of hours on. Nice. I love condensing a lot of work and information into a nice bite-sized snippet. Nice. Yeah, I wanted to play one of your videos now, actually, which we'll cut to. And before we do that, do you have any final words you'd like to end with? Words of wisdom for everybody would just be, don't quit your daydream. All right, thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Yes.
We can unfold in the greatest story ever told by you, for I. Welcome to the human race, the human race. Ooh.
See, this whole swamp is actually just one tree spread out over miles. Branches spread, then sink and take root, and then spread some more. One big living organism, just like the entire world.
I get how the tree is one big thing, but the whole world?
Sure. You think you're any different from me, or your friends, or this tree? If you listen hard enough, you can hear every living thing breathing together. You can feel everything growing. We're all living together, even if most folks don't act like it. We all have the same roots, and we are all branches of the same tree.
One adventure with many heroes.
Something's broken, been plated in gold. Unveiled secrets garnished and old. Can't say that brings us closer to all our lives, to the breath that keeps us beating, to the breath that keeps us beating, to the breath that keeps us beating.
People all over the world made the difficult transition from nomadic cultures to agricultural ones that used solar energy more efficiently. It gave rise to civilization. We stand on the shoulders of those who did the hard work that such a fundamental transformation required. Now, our turn.
Can be saved. We can be saved. We can be saved.
The ant doesn't know that there's more than the patio here. He just keeps walking. He doesn't know he's just part of of lots of worlds. And the human race is sort of like that. After they've discovered what's up there, they know they're only a little part of the huge galaxy. I think there probably are many different kinds of life forms, cells and organisms. Some may not be visible, some may not have been discovered, and some may be on places we can't go. And they all might have the same perspective as we do on this, that there might be others and that maybe they can find them someday, but at the moment,
Ladies and gentlemen,
and on really romantic evenings of South, I go salsa dancing with my confusion.
Thanks so much for checking out the first episode. There's going to be many more to come. I'd really appreciate if you tell your friends about this and maybe give it a share. Also, leave a comment wherever you're listening and let me know what you think. I'll definitely be improving things and adding more elements as we go. I'd also love to hear some suggestions of who you'd like to see as a guest. And if you want to be a guest yourself, don't hesitate to hit me up. My email is thepaplin@gmail.com. You can also stay up to date with new episodes and upcoming streams on my website, thepaplin.org. And you can also browse my art there and maybe buy some prints if you feel like it. I'll end things now by playing a song by my friend Entangled Mind. She's a very talented musician who just released her debut album called Eternal Motion. Here's the title track set to some visuals I made. Bye, see you next time.